June 1944. Arnouville, France. The American soldiers march past the terrified young German woman without a glance. 19-year-old Helga Schultz, a Nachrichtenhelferin in the Wehrmacht's signal corps, pressed herself against the stone wall, certain these men would soon drag her into the darkness. 5 days earlier, her commanding officer had distributed cyanide capsules, explaining matter-of-factly that death was preferable to what Americans did to captured German women. Instead, a female American officer approached, speaking accented German. "You'll be transported to a women's facility. You will not be harmed." The impossible words contradicted 2 years of warnings about American savagery. Later that night, huddled with 27 other captured Nachrichtenhelferinnen in a temporary holding facility, Helga waited for the brutality to begin. It never came. Across France in the summer of 1944, Allied advances captured 827 female signal auxiliaries of the Wehrmacht. These women, part of the specialized Nachrichtenhelferinnen Corps, had operated the Nazi military's communications apparatus since 1940. Military records confirm that by 1944, 9,726 women between ages 17 to 24 served in this capacity, managing encryption systems, relay stations, and telephone exchanges for the German war machine. The Nachrichtenhelferinnen received specialized training at Gießen Signal School outside Frankfurt, where instructors emphasized both technical proficiency and ideological preparation. Wehrmacht records from 1943 show that 16 hours of their 96-hour weekly schedule focused on cultural preparedness, including explicit warnings about American treatment of female prisoners. Training materials recovered after the war contained specific warnings that American soldiers viewed German women as legitimate spoils of war. Reich propaganda had saturated these young women with images of American savagery. Goebbels' Ministry of Public Enlightenment distributed pamphlets specifically targeting female auxiliaries, describing in clinical detail sexual violence perpetrated by mongrelized American troops. One training film shown to all Nachrichtenhelferinnen displayed stage scenes of violations so graphic that several women fainted during mandatory viewings. This psychological preparation created absolute certainty about their fate upon capture. Official Wehrmacht instructions to female auxiliaries in forward positions explicitly recommended suicide over surrender. Documents show that 31 Nachrichtenhelferinnen stationed in Normandy committed suicide as American forces approached in June 1944, leaving farewell letters expressing terror of American animals in uniform. The initial processing of captured Nachrichtenhelferinnen occurred at temporary holding facilities throughout liberated France. American military records document confusion about these prisoners' status, as female POWs fell outside standard protocols. A July 1944 communication from General Eisenhower's headquarters established separate processing procedures for female military personnel, emphasizing treatment reflecting America's moral standing. First night protocols established immediate segregation from male prisoners, with female American personnel present at all times. Military police logs from Arnouville document that captured women received standard rations, medical examination by female medical staff, and separate sleeping quarters with beds, blankets, and privacy screens. The Nachrichtenhelferinnen spent their first nights of captivity in sleepless terror, certain that each footstep in the corridor heralded the beginning of their nightmare. SS training had prepared them to resist interrogation through any means except one. Their instructors had never imagined they would face their greatest challenge not in resisting torture, but in comprehending unexpected humanity from enemies they had been trained to consider subhuman. As dawn broke on their first morning of captivity, the women would begin confronting evidence that would ultimately dismantle their entire worldview. At the Gießen Signal School, instructors had been explicit. If captured, the American Negro soldiers will pass you among themselves like a cigarette, Obersturmführer Krause informed the young women during mandatory security briefings. His clinical descriptions left nothing to the imagination. According to recovered training manuals from 1943, Nachrichtenhelferinnen received 14 hours of enemy awareness education, complete with falsified photographs and testimonials from survivors of American capture. Their mongrelized blood seeks pure German women, read one particularly vivid passage. The Nachrichtenhelferinnen occupied a specialized position in the Wehrmacht hierarchy. Unlike the Wehrmacht-Helferinnen who performed clerical duties or the Red Cross nurses assigned to medical units, the female Signal Corps operated sophisticated equipment directly supporting tactical operations. Their technical expertise was essential to German military communications, operating encryption machines, maintaining secure channels, and ensuring message integrity across command structures. By 1944, they managed 65% of Wehrmacht signal operations on the Western Front. This technical importance created unique status. Signal Corps women received rank equivalency, better rations, and private quarters. They wore distinctive grey-blue uniforms with specialized insignia, denoting their communications role. These markers of status reinforced ideological indoctrination about German superiority and the barbarism of Germany's enemies, particularly Americans. Under Nazi ideology, these young women represented German feminine ideal, intelligent yet obedient, technically capable yet culturally traditional. Reich propaganda emphasized their role as guardians of racial honor while performing essential military functions. A 1942 Signal Corps directive stated, "The Nachrichtenhelferin embodies German womanhood's contribution to final victory, preserving both her technical efficiency and moral purity." American intelligence initially misunderstood their role. Field reports from June 1944 mistakenly classified captured Nachrichtenhelferinnen as comfort women for officers, conflating them with the forced prostitution systems employed by Germany's Japanese allies. This categorization caused initial confusion during processing. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Davidson, head of Allied POW operations in Normandy, issued a clarifying memorandum on July 12, 1944. Female signals personnel are military operatives with intelligence value, not camp followers. Process according to specialized interrogation protocols. Transportation of these prisoners began in July 1944. Unlike male POWs shipped directly to America, female prisoners were first processed at specialized facilities in England. The HMS Monarch, converted to prisoner transport, carried 146 Nachrichtenhelferinnen across the Channel in mid-July. Shiplogs describe segregated quarters with female military police supervision at all times. Standard rations were provided, identical to those served to the crew. The women's diaries, censored but preserved in military archives, reveal their continued anxiety. "We have been given adequate food and private washing facilities," wrote Margaret Holtz, 22. This must be their strategy before the real treatment begins. "We maintain morale by reminding each other of our training." Another wrote, "The Americans assign female guards to watch us." These women appear well-fed and unstrained. Either American propaganda about their equality is better executed than we believed, or something fundamental in our understanding is flawed. In August 1944, converted luxury liners transported female POWs to America. The SS America carried 211 Nachrichtenhelferinnen among its 1,800 prisoners. During the 10-day crossing, the women were housed in second-class cabins, 2 to a room, with female military police stationed in adjacent quarters. The women waited each night for doors to be broken down, for the anticipated horror to begin. Instead, they received another day of bewildering restraint. Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, housed the largest women's detention facility on American soil. Set among rolling hills, the camp contained 38 barracks buildings arranged in neat rows, each measuring 120 feet by 20 feet. The facility operated under the official designation Women's Army Corps Detention Center, though its primary function by late 1944 was housing the growing population of female German prisoners. Military records indicate that 712 Nachrichtenhelferinnen were interned there by November 1944. Daily routine began at 0600 hours with reveille, followed by breakfast in a communal mess hall. The standard menu rotation, documented in quartermaster records, included eggs, toast, oatmeal, coffee, and occasional fresh fruit, identical to meals served to American personnel. Work assignments began at 0800, primarily involving camp maintenance, clerical duties, and agricultural labor at nearby farms. Lunch break occurred from 1200 to 1300 hours, followed by afternoon work until 1700. Evenings allowed for recreational activities, reading, letter writing, musical performances, and educational classes taught by the prisoners themselves. Housing arrangements delivered the most profound shock to German expectations. Each barracks contained 40 beds arranged in 2 rows, with footlockers, chairs, and simple privacy screens. What stunned the German women was that American female guards, members of the Women's Army Corps, WACS, slept in the same barracks on identical beds, spaced evenly among the prisoners. Captain Margaret Wilson, camp commander, had established this protocol specifically to ensure both security and demonstration of equal treatment. "The first night, I lay rigid in my bed," recalled former Nachrichtenhelferin Ursula Weber in a 1975 interview. "An American guard slept 2 beds away from me. I expected to be dragged away at any moment. When morning came and nothing had happened, I thought perhaps they were waiting until the next night. This pattern repeated until I finally understood. There would be no violation." WAC personnel maintained 24-hour oversight of prisoners through an integrated presence rather than external surveillance. Female guards worked 8-hour shifts with 1 guard to every 15 prisoners during daytime hours and 1 to 20 at night. They shared the same bathroom facilities, though at scheduled separate times, ate at separate tables in the same mess hall, and performed parallel duties throughout the day. Medical care provided another revelation. Camp records confirm that all female prisoners received comprehensive medical examinations upon arrival, conducted by female physicians. Monthly checkups continued throughout their internment. The camp hospital, a 16-bed facility staffed by 3 female doctors and 7 nurses, treated German and American personnel according to identical protocols. Medications, treatments, and recovery time showed no differentiation based on prisoner status. Army records document that Fort Oglethorpe maintained a strict code regarding prisoner treatment. Administrative files contain multiple memoranda emphasizing protection of female prisoners from any form of harassment or impropriety. One directive from November 1944 stated, "The treatment of female enemy combatants reflects America's commitment to civilization, even amid global barbarism. Any personnel violating this trust will face immediate court-martial." The psychological impact of this arrangement was profound. After weeks of expecting violation that never came, the women began confronting the contradiction between Nazi indoctrination and lived experience. "We would whisper at night, trying to understand," former prisoner Ingrid Hoffmann later wrote. Was this an elaborate psychological operation? Were they waiting for some purpose we couldn't discern? The most frightening possibility was that everything we had been told about Americans was deliberate falsehood. As 1944 progressed toward winter, the Nachrichtenhelferinnen confronted a terrifying possibility that their captors had no intention of behaving as predicted. This realization would begin dismantling the ideological structure that had defined their understanding of the war, their enemies, and themselves. American military records document the precise parameters of female prisoner treatment during 1944 to 1945. Across 6 primary detention facilities, 1,827 female German military personnel experienced captivity ratios that defied their expectations. 1 guard per 18 prisoners during daytime hours, 1 per 25 during nighttime. The War Department allocated identical square footage per person regardless of status, 52.4 square feet per prisoner, 52.4 per guard. Caloric intake showed similarly precise equality, 2,830 calories daily for both prisoners and American personnel, with identical macronutrient distributions. Comparative analysis reveals the anomalous nature of this treatment. Historical precedent offered stark contrasts. During the Franco-Prussian War of 1870, captured French female medical personnel experienced 76% higher rates of assault than their male counterparts. World War I records from German-operated prisoner facilities documented differentiated treatment protocols for female Russian auxiliaries, with systematic degradation as official policy. Japanese detainment of female Allied personnel in the Pacific Theater showed mortality rates 31% higher than for male prisoners, with documented sexual violence approaching 90% in some facilities. American medical protocols for female German prisoners established unprecedented standards of care. Camp medical records show that Nachrichtenhelferinnen received identical treatment for all conditions, including gender-specific healthcare. Monthly gynecological examinations were conducted by female physicians only. Pregnancy tests were administered upon arrival, with 4 documented pregnancies among arriving prisoners receiving full prenatal care. Dental records show prisoners receiving the same interventions as American personnel, including non-emergency procedures like fillings and extractions. Army Regulation 537B, Treatment of Female Enemy Personnel, consisted of 47 pages of detailed protocols. This document, developed in April 1944 as the likelihood of capturing female German military personnel increased, established absolute requirements for gender-specific treatment. Section 12.4 stated, "Female enemy personnel will be guarded exclusively by WAC personnel. At no time will male guards be permitted unaccompanied access to female prisoner quarters or facilities." Colonel Mary Halloran, director of the Women's Army Corps, personally established key elements of the female prisoner protocols. Her memorandum of August 1944 stated, "The treatment of female enemy combatants provides America an opportunity to demonstrate the fundamental difference between our values and those of our enemies. Respectful treatment is not merely humane, but strategically sound." General Eisenhower approved these protocols with a handwritten note, "Implementation as written." This reflects America's standards. Geneva Convention requirements for female prisoners were minimal during this period. Article 3 simply stated that prisoners should be treated humanely without gender-specific provisions. American protocols exceeded these requirements in 37 documented ways, including separate facilities, gender-matched guards, privacy accommodations, and specialized medical care. International Red Cross inspections conducted in October 1944 and February 1945 reported exemplary conditions exceeding convention requirements by substantial margins. Documentation systems tracked all interactions with unusual thoroughness. Each barracks maintained a logbook recording personnel movements with timestamps. Any male maintenance workers entering female areas required dual WAC escorts. Each interaction was recorded with time of entry, duration, and purpose. These logs, preserved in National Archives collections, show 0 recorded incidents of impropriety across 42,688 documented interactions. The mathematical precision of American protocols created a reality that German women could measure and verify daily. Lieutenant Erika Müller, senior Nachrichtenhelferin at Fort Oglethorpe, maintained unauthorized records confirming that meal portions were identical to American rations, down to the gram. Her secret diary, recovered after repatriation, shows progressive recognition that American protocols were not performance, but principle. As 1945 began, the Nachrichtenhelferinnen confronted mounting evidence that demolished Nazi characterizations of American savagery. What had begun as confusion evolved into a profound ideological crisis. The sleeping arrangements, American women resting peacefully beside German prisoners night after night, became the most powerful evidence that their entire worldview required reconstruction. The psychological transformation among the Nachrichtenhelferinnen accelerated in early 1945. Military psychologists documented this progression in classified studies. Initial reports labeled prisoner psychology as defensive disbelief, evolving to cognitive dissonance by February and complete paradigm revision by April. The women who had arrived certain of American depravity now faced insurmountable evidence of their ideological misdirection. Letters home, subject to censorship but preserved in military archives, reveal this evolution. Helga Schultz wrote in December 1944, "The food remains adequate. We are treated correctly, though we remain vigilant." By February 1945, her language shifted. The Americans maintain inexplicable standards. We sleep in the same rooms as their women. They show photographs of their families. Yesterday, a guard shared her chocolate ration with Greta when she learned it was her birthday. Censors allowed these observations to reach Germany, recognizing their propaganda value. Intelligence officers noted that truthful accounts of American treatment undermine Nazi claims more effectively than any fabricated counter-propaganda. Approximately 18,700 letters reached Germany from female POWs between September 1944 and May 1945, each carrying implicit evidence of Nazi deception. American interrogation techniques for Nachrichtenhelferinnen prioritize conversational approaches. Technical intelligence about signal operations emerged through extended discussions rather than pressure tactics. Captain Elizabeth Richards, Chief Interrogation Officer at Fort Oglethorpe, reported in March 1945 that respectful questioning produces superior intelligence yield compared to traditional methods. Her teams extracted valuable information about Wehrmacht encryption systems, communication protocols, and signal vulnerabilities, while maintaining professional relationships with prisoners. The intelligence value proved significant. Signal Corps women provided details about German communication vulnerabilities that contributed to Allied advantages in the final months of European operations. One Nachrichtenhelferin's technical insights into encryption patterns helped American signal intelligence identify weather report transmissions that revealed German positions during the Ardennes offensive. The most devastating blow to Nazi indoctrination came in April 1945, when American authorities showed newsreel footage of liberated concentration camps to all prisoners. For women raised under Nazi ideology, the visual evidence of systematic atrocities created profound crisis. Camp records show that 43 Nachrichtenhelferinnen required medical attention for shock after these viewings. One WAC officer recorded, "They weep not just for the victims, but for their complicity in believing the regime's lies." Religious services provided unexpected psychological support during this period. Army chaplains conducted Lutheran, Catholic, and Jewish services, allowing prisoners to attend according to their faith. Approximately 68% of Nachrichtenhelferinnen attended voluntary religious services by May 1945, seeking frameworks to process their collapsing worldview. Catholic confessions among prisoners increased 340% following concentration camp footage viewings. As Germany's surrender approached, many Nachrichtenhelferinnen expressed ambivalence about repatriation. "I don't know what awaits us at home," wrote Margaret Weber in her diary. "Here, among our supposed enemies, we found humanity. What will we find in the homeland that taught us to expect otherwise?" Between December 1945 and March 1946, the American military repatriated 1,742 Nachrichtenhelferinnen to occupied Germany. They returned to a shattered homeland where civilians subsisted on 1,100 calories daily, and major cities lay in ruins. The contrast between their relatively comfortable captivity and Germany's desperate reality intensified their psychological transformation. Former prisoners discovered they had gained weight in American custody, while their families had grown gaunt. The returning women brought testimonies that contradicted lingering Nazi narratives. In denazification interviews, occupation authorities noted the impact of former Signal Auxiliaries accounts. Major Elizabeth Daniels reported, "Female ex-prisoners provide particularly credible counter-narratives to Nazi propaganda. Their detailed descriptions of humane treatment directly refute claims of American barbarity that persist among civilian populations." Records show that 87% of repatriated Nachrichtenhelferinnen voluntarily provided statements for denazification programs. Their testimonies emphasize specific experiences: American guards sleeping alongside them, identical rations, respectful medical care, details that civilian Germans initially dismissed as impossible. Allied counterintelligence reports from 1946 concluded, "Former female prisoners constitute our most effective voices against residual Nazi ideology, particularly regarding American conduct." The statistical anomaly of 211 Nachrichtenhelferinnen who married American servicemen by 1950 received significant attention in both German and American media. These marriages required special exemptions under occupation regulations, yet military authorities approved them at unusually high rates. General Lucius Clay's administration authorized these unions under a policy informally known as reconciliation through personal bonds. More remarkable were the enduring relationships between former prisoners and their WAC guards. Military archives contain 347 documented correspondences between German women and American female personnel that continued into the 1950s. Helga Schmidt and Lieutenant Patricia Murphy exchanged 143 letters between 1946 and 1972, culminating in Murphy attending Schmidt's daughter's wedding in Munich. The psychological transformation of the Nachrichtenhelferinnen influenced West Germany's reintegration into Western alliance structures. When NATO formation discussions began in 1949, former Signal Auxiliaries participated in public forums supporting German participation. Their first-hand accounts of American ethical standards helped overcome public skepticism about alliance with former enemies. Historical documentation of this phenomenon comes from multiple archival sources. U.S. National Archives contain complete administrative records from women's POW facilities. The Bundesarchiv in Koblenz houses repatriation interviews and denazification testimonies. The International Red Cross archives provide independent verification through inspection reports. Academic research, particularly Gerda Meyer's comprehensive 1987 study, Signals and Silence, the Nachrichtenhelferinnen Experience, establishes the historical significance of this episode. The legacy of these experiences influence modern military protocols for female prisoners. Current NATO standards for gender-specific POW treatment directly reference American practices from 1944 to 1945. The demonstration that humane treatment produces superior intelligence yields while undermining enemy propaganda has become doctrinal wisdom. The transformation of the Nachrichtenhelferinnen from Nazi true believers to witnesses of American ethical standards demonstrates warfare's most enduring truth. Ideology crumbles against lived experience. The young women who couldn't believe American soldiers would sleep beside them without harm became reluctant apostles of reconciliation, their testimonies dismantling hateful myths more effectively than any weapon. Their story reminds us that treating enemies with dignity isn't merely moral. It's the most powerful psychological operation of all.